Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Welcome to my coverage of a SpaceX NASA mission. That's right, this is, of course, NASA hired SpaceX to fly a Dragon capsule to resupply the International Space Station. This is the 16th time SpaceX has done this for NASA. They're contracted on the first round of commercial resupplies to do 20. So they're getting close to the end of this contract, but they actually have a renewed contract to continue flying Dragon capsules up to the ISS. And this is an exciting launch. Let me, again, as I have been trying to train you guys, let's do this. And also, what do you guys think? Look at this. We have a new time until launch. So hopefully is like even more accurate. And I don't have to guess and put it in and be totally wrong and trying to do that stuff live. It should be way better now. So let me know what you think of that. So yeah, I know it like disappears as soon as we get onto a screen with a bunch of white on it. So yeah, again, if you need your rundown, like I'm going to give you right now, you can just go to my website, pre-launch previews. It's everydayastronaut.com/pre-launch previews. And then you're going to get a nice little rundown. We're going to click on today's mission. This is, again, the CRS-16 SpaceX mission. So yeah, here you go. Here's our rundown. This is taking off in, 34 minutes. It's the CRS-16 Dragon resupply mission. This is actually a refurbished Dragon capsule. It flew last February 2017 for CRS-10, I think. Yeah. So this is SpaceX's rocket. They're using a Falcon 9. NASA is paying for this mission. This is a NASA mission on a SpaceX rocket. That's SpaceX is the shipping company. They're like the truck. NASA is the customer, and it's not always, NASA isn't always the customer. A lot of SpaceX's launches are commercial customers, big satellites going out to space and stuff. This is a NASA mission. These ones are extra exciting because, yeah, they're doing really cool things. It's more, I think these ones are more tangible normally because they're science missions, and us here down on Earth actually typically get pretty cool things out of these missions. That when people are up on the International Space Station studying stuff, it directly benefits us down here on Earth. A surprising amount. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of research that's being done on the International Space Station. It's crazy. So this is, again, a Block 5 version of the Falcon 9. This is the first time this particular block is flown. You can tell right here the period dot one. So this says 1050.1. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Block 1050.1 means it's the first flight of this Block 5 booster. This is taking off at Slick 40, that's Space Launch Complex 40, in Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Remember, if it has an S in front of it, so Slick, like as in Space Launch Complex 40, that means it's on the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station side. If the launch pad just says LC, like LC-39A, LC-39B, those missions are directly for those are on NASA's property, like actually at Kennedy Space Center. And even though they're like literally only divided by, it's basically an arbitrary line for the most part. They're right next to each other. So this launch pad is only like 4 or 5 kilometers away from their other launch pad, which is technically at Kennedy Space Center. This one is technically at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. So this is middle of the road for how heavy the Dragon can get. So it's 2,500 kilograms unpressurized and 1,600-ish kilograms of pressurized payload mass. Because that's the thing about the Dragon capsule. It has the actual capsule part is pressurized, so you can have living things inside it and things that can't be in the vacuum of space. And then you also have the unpressurized trunk of the Dragon capsule, which is really big and offers the ability to fly things that it doesn't matter if it's in the vacuum of space, such as hardware and things that are going to be on the outside of the station anyway. That's what that trunk is for. You can also use the trunk then to discard stuff, which is pretty cool. The pressurized portion does return to Earth, so we have down mass capability with the Dragon capsule, meaning you can actually bring it back down. So that's always good. So this is going to the International Space Station, as we said, which is awesome. That means, though, today there is an instantaneous launch window because they are rendezvousing with a spacecraft. It is flying over, and it has to line up perfectly with that inclination. Otherwise, they would miss it. Literally 1 second. They have 1 second to hit go, basically. Well, it's a lot more complicated than hitting the space bar like it is in Kerbal Space Program. But really, that's what it comes down to. 1 second. And so if they have to scrub, oftentimes there's a next day opportunity. There's not a next day opportunity due to some stuff going on up at station right now. So the next opportunity would be Friday. If they have to scrub today, if for some reason it scrubs, Friday's the next chance. But yeah, this is Terrence in our Discord says, this is why I need a video on launch complexes. I do have that video titled Best Places to See Rocket Launches in Florida, and it does talk all about the different launch complexes and where you need to be to see different rocket launches. So I think that one's pretty good. So this is another reason why this launch is super exciting. It's going to be a return to launch site landing. So just on Monday, we're here Monday with an awesome booster landing, but that was just off the coast. It was like 40 kilometers or so away from the launch site. This is landing back at land, which is always exciting. I'm super jealous of all of you out there in Florida today. It looks like a gorgeous day. You're going to be treated to seeing a 20-story tall booster falling out of the sky. 20 is the whole thing. 14-story, 12, 13, 14-story tall building basically falling out of the sky. It is absolutely incredible. I've seen a handful of them, and every time it's just so great. Henry, nice try, but thanks for the tip. And also Primus, howdy, thank you for the tip, thanks for saying hi. Nice try, though, Henry. Nice try. There is no fairing recovery, not only because it's on the East Coast and they currently don't have any attempts to recover on the East Coast. They don't have a Mr. Stevens out there on the East Coast, but it's also a Dragon capsule, which means it's not inside of a fairing at all. So, two reasons why they won't be recovering that. They are not working on recovering the second stage that we know of anymore because that changes about every 5 minutes. Thanks, Elon. Again, so this is the 65th flight of the Falcon 9 rocket altogether. This is the 20th launch for SpaceX this year. That is amazing, breaking their record just by 2 now. So, and this will be the 33rd successfully landed core when it lands. I'm going to go ahead and just say when it lands. So, and again, thanks to Jeff Barrett for making these for our website now as well. These are another great way to just like look at something with a glance. Share that with your friends when they're asking when's this thing, blah, blah, blah. Pop that up and boopity boop, bippity bop. It'll, nice, easy infographic to look at. There's a lot of cool science on this mission. If you want to watch this video, I'm sure NASA or SpaceX will probably be showing this. But there's a lot of cool student opportunities and missions or science missions in this. It was pretty cool. I definitely gave that a watch. So here's some of the big ones. The Global Ecosystems Dynamics Investigation. This is basically going to be a laser tracking device that's going to be checking out and precisely measuring how tall trees are around the world, basically, especially in specific areas, to help us understand the diversity, help us understand kind of their carbon everything. People are doing stuff that are a lot smarter than anything I know anything about, to be able to really help with our models of climate and everything, and figuring out how the trees and everything and all the forests and jungles and things like that, how that affects everything, really. So the more data we have on stuff like that, it's just crazy when you start plugging in. That's what I love about science, is you can just take data, take raw data, and someone out there is going to be smart enough to be like, well, now we can overlay this, and look, we have a correlation now, or there is no direct correlation between this and this. And that's why it's so cool to have really sensitive equipment up in space that's able to study our planet better than we can down here by a lot. So I just think that type of stuff is really cool. I get excited about that. The robotic refueling mission. This is a demonstrator to work on transferring storage of liquid methane in microgravity. It's probably something that SpaceX is going to be very interested in when they have to refuel their starships, formerly known as BFS. Starship, the artist, formerly known as BFS. Just a bunch of other cool experiments. I think it's pretty sweet. Oh, this is that video I was talking about where I talk about the best views on the East Coast. So if you haven't watched that and if you're planning to ever go out to a launch on the East Coast, definitely check this out. And this brings us, I didn't even mean to do this. This is a great segue. Today is actually the anniversary. So this is a NASA mission. I love NASA missions because they're always, there's a lot more press out there. There's a lot more opportunities. They bring out social. If you ever want to go out and get behind the scenes, definitely check out NASA social program. Apply if you have say you have at least if you're active on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or wherever, definitely apply to NASA Social, and they'll give you really great behind-the-scenes access and take you up to the pads and everything. It's a really, really cool opportunity. Definitely do that. So I like NASA missions because they have that, and my favorite NASA mission that I've been to personally was 4 years ago today. I posted this on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, do that. It's Day Astronaut, though. Every day doesn't fit on Twitter, so I have to be Day Astronaut. But this picture to me, I have to toot my own horn a little bit because it kind of makes me cry a little bit. So if you think about this image, in the background is the Orion capsule, which is NASA's the first time they've built in-house design of a capsule since the Apollo capsule. And we all know the Apollo capsule, the famous Apollo missions that took us to the moon. This is their next generation. It's a lot bigger even than Apollo. It's called Orion. And it went on a test flight in 2014 on December 5th, 2014, 4 years ago today. It rode on top of a Delta IV Heavy, and it was the first actual flight with significant flight hardware. And they were testing the heat shield. So it was only a 4-hour flight. They went on this pretty elliptical orbit and came in screaming hot to test the heat shield. And it went fantastically. But then what's crazy about this? So remember, this is the Orion capsule on top of the Delta IV Heavy, and I talked about how it's the first capsule since the Apollo 1 or since the Apollo missions. Well, this wall that you see framing this image is from where the Apollo capsule was originally tested from. This is from the launch pad of the first Apollo missions. The first test of the Apollo capsule was on this LC-34 launch pad. I just think that just happened to be really cool. I saw that wall and I'm like, I am gonna frame it through there. Boom. Yeah, and I love that. So I'm running a special today. If you guys want this, or I have two Orion pictures up on my web store. These are half off today, just in celebration of that. So click on here. You can also go to here. These two images are 50% off today as a celebration. So if you want some frameable pictures of a really cool rocket and a really cool mission, check that out. Shop.everydayastronaut.com. That way we won't crash my website. But yeah, shop.everydayastronaut.com. Click on there. Put in the code Orion for 50% off. Woo! We made it through all the preamble, the lead up preamble. And now we just get to talk. Ooh, I love it. So, what's on your mind? What questions do you guys have about space flight, rockets? What's coming up? Hit me with stuff. I have to say a real quick shout out and thank you to Jonah. Thank you for your coverage and information. What's your opinion on the design aesthetics of SpaceX over Blue Origin? That's a good. I've been working a long time. Well, not a long time. It's a lot of hours. I'm probably 60 hours into this video about Blue Origin that I've been working on since last week. They released their payload users guide, and I could show you guys a little preview. I put a preview up in Discord or in Patreon, but I'm really, really excited about Blue Origin, and personally, some of their aesthetics and branding I'm not as big of a fan of as I am of SpaceX's, but hardware wise, I'm a huge blown away. The more I dug into the New Glenn, that is going to be a really fun rocket to see fly. So stay tuned. That hopefully will be coming out. As soon as I'm off here, I'm going to be sitting here editing. I'm working on the really cool animations. I'm getting better and better at After Effects. And so stay tuned. I will have a really deep rundown on Blue Origin and their New Glenn, comparing New Glenn to all other heavy lift launchers that will be flying at the same time as it in 2021. At least U.S. launchers, and at least the U.S. launchers that have Air Force contracts. Pretty specific range of things, but I'm really excited about this video. So that'll be out tomorrow, I believe. I always say that, but animations always take me forever. So yeah, that's what I think about that. Also, thank you, Caverick, and also Adam. Thank you. I'm glad I love space stuff, so I'm glad that you guys think it's fun too. So thank you. And Henry, just joking, love the content. Well, thank you, Henry. And from Kirisu, science is the best entertainment, even if the Ariane live cast yesterday was a bit underwhelming compared to SpaceX on Monday. Yeah, it is hard to beat. I think definitely right now, SpaceX and Rocket Lab definitely have the best launch coverage to date. I hope that encourages all the other providers to start stepping up their game, because there is an audience out here that actually really likes to tune in, and we like to have the data up on the screen, and we like to join along with the launch teams and with the launch providers and with the customers, and we like to join in and witness and experience it and cheer them on. I mean, that's literally what this is all about. That's what I feel like my job is basically a professional space cheerleader, because I just want people to be supportive. It's hard. It's hard to grasp what all this stuff is. It's hard to grasp the context of why it's important. It's really hard for someone like me to sit there and appreciate a laser that's going to be measuring the treetops, because I'm not going to be spending the next 7 years combing through data and learning exactly what that means. The amount of work that people put into this stuff is unbelievable. They spend their lives, they spend their careers. The people that are doing that laser mission to measure trees have been working on this for 20 years. 20 years? 20 years ago, I was 13 years old. I was trying to play Metallica on drums. I mean, a lot has changed since then, you know. moved on to other things. But, like, think about 20 years ago. Some of us probably weren't even around, and these guys have been trying to get this laser mission up into space for that long. So, yeah, I think that's just the type of stuff that I really do appreciate, and I want everyone else to hopefully have an appreciation for. And, yeah, go science. Sorry, that was a long rant. Sorry. Dennis, would you consider selling metallic prints? Yeah, I absolutely. Someday I'll probably do some special releases of certain prints and things like that, canvas or metallic. Metallic is a good one because I think it looks great. So I'll maybe do like limited runs on certain things. Maybe on anniversaries I'll consider doing metallic prints, something like that. Yeah, we'll see. Thanks for your tip, by the way. Plastic Pinocchio, what can you tell us about Blue Origin's rumored super heavy lifter, Neil Armstrong? So, Plastic Pinocchio, thank you. And, the SpaceX live stream is available. I'm going to pop this up right here. So really, Blue Origin has just basically they've teased us like twice. They've said that New Glenn is their smallest orbital rocket, and for those of you who have seen pictures and sizes of how big New Glenn is, again, stay tuned to the video that I'm coming out with. It's gonna blow you away. You're gonna be floored if that's their smallest orbital rocket is New Glenn. And just for those of you too that are unfamiliar with Blue Origin's naming scheme, New Glenn is their first orbital rocket, named after John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth. And their suborbital little hopper is called New Shepard, named after Alan Shepard. Their next rocket is supposedly going to be called New Armstrong, which again, obviously we have Neil Armstrong, the first person to walk on the moon. So you're just going from suborbital, orbital, moon. So it sounds like it's probably going to be a moon-capable vehicle. And it's going to be massive. I have no idea what they have planned. It's definitely going to be... I wouldn't be surprised if just in this new space race, if they just have to one-up BFR, or Super Heavy and Starship. And I wouldn't be surprised if 100 tons. We're going to take 200 tons to low Earth orbit or something ridiculous. Because now we have billionaires fighting over space, which couldn't make me happier. So yeah, that's all I can tell you. I have no idea, but I'm still super excited about it. And Georgie, what do I think about plans of SpaceX to make a second stage of Falcon 9 a small Falcon ship? And don't you think that may slow down BFS? So this has already changed Georgie. That's why in our pre-launch preview we say no longer have plans to recover. Elon already 2 weeks ago tripled back down, and this stuff just changes daily at this point. They are now supposedly fast-tracking Starship development, formerly known as BFS. And in doing so, he's basically mentioned they really aren't going to try to recover the second stage of Falcon 9. Probably exactly for that reason. Putting a lot of development into that would be... Oh, yeah. Discord's pointing out that my Falcon 9 Block 5 is very crooked. You're right. Sorry. Yeah, do I think it could potentially slow down? I still think we're going to see SpaceX at some point tacking on a few technology demonstrators to the second stage of a Falcon 9, to things like heat shielding, some of the things that they can't really test. They expend those second stages anyway. It goes through a deorbiting phase. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing them testing BFS articles on a second stage, but it sounds like currently they are not going to actually pursue a mini BFS or Starship and try to recover the second stage anymore. But that might change again. Who knows? What do you think about the plan? Oh, yeah, sorry. And thank you, Georgie. Mary, you've been watching from work, couldn't miss your webcast, and heck, you had to play Metallica, your favorite band. Well, good. I grew up with Metallica and all sorts of, definitely I was really into metal and, hardcore back in the day. As you probably know by my music now, taste of music has changed a little bit. But yeah, still have fun with that. Pedro, can you talk about Dragon contamination news? So, yes, I can. So I've just seen little rumors. That sounds like a straight up rumor to me. The idea of a Dragon contamination. If there was any significant contamination to one of the main science experiments, it would have got scrubbed. So I don't know why we're sitting here. Oh, it did get scrubbed, by the way, because of moldy mouse food. So maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that today from their webcast. Again, I'm going to go nice and quiet, basically, once their webcast is up here. So let's tune in I'll try not to interrupt. Just listen in.
It's just after 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, December 5th, and you're looking at a live shot of Space Launch Complex 40, where the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is about to launch our Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. Liftoff is targeted for 1:16 p.m. Eastern Time, or 18 hours, 16 minutes, 16 seconds Universal Time. I'm John Isbrecher, and I'm the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX, and I'm thrilled to be here with you to cover our 16th cargo resupply mission for NASA. Now we're just inside T-minus 14 minutes and counting, and all systems are currently go at our launch site at Cape Canaveral and here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
Here at SpaceX headquarters, my name is Tom Perderio, and I'm a firmware engineer here at SpaceX. And joining us today is NASA Public Affairs Officer Stephanie Martin. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's great to be here in Hawthorne and to be a part of the webcast for the 16th SpaceX Cargo Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station. Our partnerships with SpaceX and other American companies are vital as NASA prepares to send astronauts on deep space exploration missions. Today, we have a lot, literally tons, of exciting science loaded into the Dragon at the launch pad. SpaceX will deliver almost 6,000 pounds of cargo to the space station, including materials to support dozens of the science and research investigations, but we'll be going into that a little bit later in today's webcast. As I was telling Tom earlier, the International Space Station has been orbiting the Earth for about 20 years now. And of those 18 years, we've had astronauts conducting research on the International Space Station. That means today's high school students have never lived a single day in their life where we haven't had astronauts conducting groundbreaking research in space.
It's kind of crazy to think about. Back when I was in high school, they had barely finished the very first crew expedition, and the trust wasn't even built. So to think we had human presence in space for that long is awesome. This will actually be SpaceX's 20th launch of 2018, and we'll be launching a flight-proven Dragon spacecraft today, which visited the International Space Station once before in CRS-10 mission back of March of 2017. Both Falcon 9 and Dragon were designed with reflight in mind, so the vehicle hardware is built to support multiple missions with minimal refurbishment in between. And while this Dragon has flown once before, the booster we're flying today is actually brand new. And after stage separation today, we'll be bringing that first stage back to land at Landing Zone 1 in Cape Canaveral so that we can fly it again for future missions. Today's launch window is instantaneous, which means that we only have 1 second to launch this Dragon. That means that if we scrub today's launch or have to abort for any reason, we'll have to move to our backup launch date, which is December 7th at 12:28 p.m. Eastern Time.
It's T-minus 11 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. And as I like to say on the webcast, the good news is the SpaceX team is working no significant issues. Falcon 9 conducted the go-no-go poll at T-minus 38 minutes, and propellant loading began shortly thereafter at T-minus 35 minutes. The SpaceX team has already completed loading fuel onto the second stage, and we're nearing completion of first stage fuel load. That'll wrap up at about T-minus 6 minutes. Big loading going on right now is liquid oxygen. That's underway on both the first and second stages. We're about 75% full on first stage and only about 15% full on second stage. We just started loading a few minutes ago. We'll finish loading liquid oxygen between T-minus 3 and T-minus 2 minutes. We're also loading helium gas onto storage vessels located on both the first and second stage. We'll use this helium to pressurize the tanks to replace the propellant that's pulled out of the tanks by the Merlin engine turbopumps. On top of Falcon 9, as you can see on the monitor, is the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon team is getting ready. They began their auto sequence at T-minus 35 minutes. That's when we synchronized timing between Dragon and the Falcon 9, and now they're undergoing last checks to make sure the systems are all healthy. The next big step for Dragon is transfer to internal power at T-minus 8 minutes. We come off of ground power and we use the batteries on board Dragon. The range is ready to support. The Air Force tells us the airspace and the sea surface is clear for launch. And finally on the weather, as you can see from the camera views, blue skies, upper altitude winds look good. We've been using balloons to check out those winds. The only thing we're watching right now is ground level winds. We're up around 20 miles an hour, but we've still got some margin before we hit a ground limit. So crossing our fingers that the winds continue to be good for the last 10 minutes. Finally, on a historical note, This week will mark the 8th anniversary since we flew the first Dragon for NASA, our COT C1 mission back in December 2010, which was a precursor to today's resupply missions. All told, it's been an amazing journey for SpaceX, and so at T-minus 9 minutes 20 seconds and counting, all systems are go.
Our Dragon spacecraft has been flying for 6 years now, and today it's the only vehicle flying that can deliver significant cargo both to and from the International Space Station. And it's been an exciting journey to get to where we are today. In 2010, SpaceX became the first private company to send a spacecraft to orbit and then return it to the Earth. And then 2 years later, in 2012, Dragon became the first privately developed spacecraft to visit the space station. Since then, SpaceX has made a total of 16 trips to the station. 15 of those as official resupply missions, and we are under contract with NASA for a total of 26 cargo resupply missions. We're currently just flying cargo missions, but very soon we'll be flying humans to space as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, with our first uncrewed demonstration mission, Demo 1, targeted for January of next year.
Today, Dragon will be carrying dozens of research payloads to the space station, including research in the National Laboratory operated by the Center for the Advancement of Science in Space, otherwise known as CASIS. There are more than 20 payloads included on this mission, sponsored by the National Lab. In fact, this mission represents the largest number of payloads ever delivered to the National Lab during a single launch to the space station. The National Lab payloads represent a diverse group of research investigations, all of which are intended to benefit life here on Earth. Let's take a look at some of that groundbreaking research from CASIS that will be aboard this CRS-16 mission.
SpaceX's 16th resupply mission to the International Space Station is primed and packed with an incredible amount of research that has the capacity to benefit life on Earth. More than 20 payloads are sponsored by the U.S. National Laboratory on the International Space Station. Let's get an idea about some of those payloads that are associated with this mission. Budweiser will send its third experiment to station with implementation partner Space Tango. This payload will examine the steeping, germination, and kilning processes associated with malting barley. Results from this research could help the company develop new malt barley varieties that are more tolerant to extreme stress environments. Corrosion can lead to inefficiencies in products and cause costly damage. In an experiment to study corrosion-causing microbial biofilms on Earth and on station, Nalco Champion will monitor the rate of microbial corrosion as a function of cell density and activity. Results could shed light on new methods to effectively mitigate against microbial corrosion both on Earth and on station. Startup company Lam Division seeks to enhance the manufacturing process of a retinal implant designed to restore vision to those who are blinded by retinal degenerative diseases. The implant consists of multiple layers of a light-activated protein, and production in microgravity could improve overall uniformity and the stability of the multi-layer system. Earlier this year, the ISS National Lab partnered with Marvel Entertainment for the Guardians of the Galaxy Space Station Challenge. Hundreds of students submitted flight concepts based on the physical characteristics of Rocket and Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy. And 2 projects were selected that will launch on this mission. One student experiment is looking at aeroponic farming, and the other at a dental glue that is activated by UV light. Sepsis, or systemic inflammation, is usually caused by exposure of an open wound to contaminated sources and is a costly healthcare burden. Timpanogen seeks to leverage microgravity to improve the process of antibiotic release from a novel patch they have developed to treat wounds and reduce the occurrence and severity of sepsis. This launch represents a diverse mixture of science that has the capacity to benefit life on Earth while leveraging microgravity. To learn more about all of the payloads associated with this mission, please visit issnationallab.org and go Dragon.
This is just a small sample of the dozens of research experiments that Dragon will take up to the International Space Station. You can follow along using @space_station on Twitter for more information on the exciting microgravity research happening there.
We are coming up on T-minus 5 minutes and continuing to count down for launch in our 1-second window. On these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final checkouts to make sure all the primary systems will work in flight. We're covering propulsion, communications, avionics systems. Now currently at T-minus 7 minutes, we began the engine chill-in. Valves that previously were closed were opened. That allowed fuel and liquid oxygen to flow out of the propellant tanks down to the turbo pumps. That cold liquid oxygen chilled into the turbo pump on each of the 9 Merlin first stage engines. We might hear an announcement in the countdown a little later on that the engines are sufficiently chilled in for launch. Currently, the transporter erector strongback is getting ready to move away from the first stage and second stage. It'll move back a couple of degrees and then hold there until launch. We're also in the middle right now of checking out the upper stage thrust vector control actuators. This is known as engine wiggle. We're physically moving the thrust chamber very slightly. That makes sure the guidance hardware is go for flight. The first stage engines will have a similar wiggle, but that's done just seconds before we ignite them. Now at T-minus 1 minute, the flight computers will enter startup mode on the Falcon 9. That will guide the rocket through the rest of the countdown. You'll hear the launch director from SpaceX give a go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds. And then finally, a couple seconds before liftoff, the engines will be ignited. And at T0, the rocket will be released from the hold down clamps. And at that point, the strongback will then recline the remainder of the way from the rocket, clearing it for liftoff and flight into orbit. On the Dragon side, the team has transferred to internal power. They've performed their final checks. Just watching right now, making sure everything is go for launch and the flight that will take us about 3 days to rendezvous with the space station. The Air Force range continues to be go, and the weather continues to look good. So right now, everything looks good for an on-time launch, just under T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Let's share in the last minutes of terminal countdown.
Cool. We're going to explain a few things here real quick. I saw a great question that I want to answer before. Arvid asked, when will this Dragon dock with the ISS? It's about a 3-day journey with the Dragon capsule. Don't forget, MS-11 just launched a few days ago. Was that Monday morning? That was with crew on board, 3 from out of Russia, technically Kazakhstan. And it got to this International Space Station in about 4 hours. They can do this like direct rendezvous thing that's a lot quicker. Dragon plays it a lot slower, especially the cargo version. Crew, I need to figure out what their pattern will be, and how quickly it can get there. But this will be about 3-day journey. Even though it's like really close, they play it super safe. It's this whole thing that they do and slowly approach the station. And it might be, I think that's a little bit longer than normal because of probably visiting vehicle rules, all this stuff. There's a lot that goes into that stuff. So, thank you for that question. Again, remember everyone, this is out of Slick 40.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
So, good, that's good. Stage 2 LOX load, they're full of liquid oxygen. And they need to basically fuel this stuff at the very last second because they use that super chilled prop. That's colder than minus 200 degrees Celsius, the liquid oxygen is. And so it's super chilled. It's almost a solid, it's so cold. And they want it to be as cold as possible when the rocket takes off. So they load that stuff in at the very literally last minutes. So now we're seeing it vent out. That is additional oxygen being vented into the atmosphere. It's still crazy, crazy, crazy cold. So it does, come in contact with the liquid in the air, with the humidity in the air, and it turns into condensation. So it looks like cloud vapor. That's actually just, if you went up and touched the rocket right now, it would freeze your hand. It is unbelievably cold. And yet it's going to have fire. Okay, good. Fire and plasma coming out of the bottom end of it here in just a second. Matthew.
Stage 2, press for flight.
To add to that, why does it take so long to reach station? It's mostly just out of an abundance of caution. Visiting vehicle rules, like I said, they can do it in 4 hours, which is not very many orbits. But yeah, of course, you could almost do it directly in one orbit if you really wanted to risk it. But they just play it safe. As long as it's in the same inclination, they can take their time, slowly changing its orbit until it catches up and rendezvous. It's all about safety. When you have people on board the ISS,
Stage 1's at startup pressures.
You play it nice and safe.
Minus 15 seconds.
And Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
This Falcon 9 will be reused again.
9,
yes.
8.
Here we go, guys.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
I love that black 5. Black. Block 5. flat. Looking for some good shots today. It's a pretty clear day. We'll see, hopefully, great shots of it landing today, because this is landing back on land, so there will be cameras galore. We'll see lots of people that are out there in Florida.
35 seconds into flight, we've had a great liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40. Falcon 9 powered under the thrust of 1.7 million pounds. We're coming up on throttle bucket, preparing for maximum dynamic pressure.
Throttle bucket? I've never heard that before.
Propulsion reports that we are on target, throttle down, getting ready to pass through max Q.
Vehicle is supersonic and experiencing maximum dynamic pressure.
We're passing through the range where aerodynamic loads are greatest on Dragon Falcon 9. The Merlin engines are now throttling back up. Propulsion reports the first stage systems are nominal. Great views from the cameras here. The blue skies, a nice daylight launch, showing Falcon 9 with Dragon headed downrange. The
MVAC engine
call
chill.
out for MVAC engine chill. That means we are now chilling in the LOX turbo pump on the upper stage engine, getting ready for its ignition about 2.5 minutes into flight.
So pretty.
Great view looking back from the first stage camera. Cape Canaveral in the background as we head northeast towards the International Space Station orbit. Next major activities coming up in about 25 seconds. We'll have shutdown of the 9 first stage engines. We'll get stage separation and ignition of the second stage to propel Falcon 9 and Dragon into Earth orbit. We also hope to see on the left side the first stage flip around and light 3 engines and to begin the path of coming back to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral.
Here we go. Quick sequence of events. There's Miko. Main engine cut off.
Pico.
Stage set. I love seeing that first stage just get plummeted, just pummeled by the exhaust of the upper stage. And then watch, you can tell when there's a boost back. You'll see those
Successful
cords.
stage separation, ignition of the upper stage engine. We've also seen the first stage has done its flip maneuver and the boost back burn has begun. We have lit 3 engines on the first stage. That's reducing the forward velocity and will be bringing it back towards Cape Canaveral. Shutdown of the boost back burn is coming up in about 10 seconds.
So it's basically stalled, and now it's actually reversing direction.
Second
You can
stage
kind of-
continues to look good on power.
If you look really closely, you could probably see.
On the right-hand side, you may have seen an object passing the nozzle of the upper stage engine. That's the Dragon nose cap that's generated at this point in flight. We've heard the call-out shutdown on the boost back burn. First stage has completed the first of 3 planned burns that will result in return to landing zone 1 on Cape Canaveral, just a few miles from where the first stage just lifted off. You can see the grid fins slowly opening. The large titanium fins, we allow them to open slowly.
Stage 2 is following
Given the
normal
mass of the
trajectory.
fins, we don't want them to open too rapidly. Second stage continues to look good. First stage good. T plus 4 minutes into flight. All systems are go.
As you just heard from John, we had a beautiful, clear liftoff of the Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral. And right now, there's 2 things happening simultaneously. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see a camera that's on the top of that Falcon 9 first stage, currently pointed down the length of the first stage. You can see the titanium grid fins, and that will be executing its re-entry burn at about T plus 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And then on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the engine nozzle of that Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. That is currently accelerating the Dragon spacecraft to match orbit with the International Space Station for its eventual berthing maneuvers.
It's an interesting semantic point that the process of connecting the Dragon to the space station is called berthing with an E. And that's because it is brought to the space station by the Canadarm2, while docking actually refers specifically to 2 spacecraft that can connect without any external assistance. This stems from old shipping days in which ships would come into the harbor and dock themselves under their own power, while larger ships, which aren't able to easily navigate in harbors, are met by tugboats and then berthed. So for the space station, the Robotic Canadarm2 is like a tugboat for the Dragon spacecraft.
That Dragon spacecraft will make its way to orbit after it separates from the top of the second stage, coming up later in the mission. But right now we are focused on both that second stage still accelerating and the first stage coming back down for a landing.
That's such a cool shot.
Next step up for the first stage is going to be a re-entry burn. That's when it's going to light 3 of its Merlin engines to slow itself down as it hits the denser regions of the atmosphere. You can actually see on the left-hand side of your screen, that is Cape Canaveral and the coastline of Florida. You can see that first stage is oriented towards Cape Canaveral and currently about to decelerate.
So does that before it hits the atmosphere?
That re-entry burn will be happening in 30 seconds.
Look at that chunk of ice.
In addition to those re-entry burns, you actually saw some what looked like frozen condensation floating off the side of the first stage.
Cool.
In addition to those burns, the first stage also uses those titanium grid fins to control itself and cold gas thrusters, which are those bursts of air you can see periodically issuing from that first stage. Let's watch the re-entry burn happen in about 5 seconds.
And get ready for all the questions about, what was that UFO? Did you see that UFO? Yes, a tiny little donut alien ship. That was just a chunk of frozen...
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Again, remember, this thing is really, really, really cold. Notice it goes from 1 engine to 3 engines. You can see it get into a striped line there. The center lights up first and then the outer 2.
You can see all 3 of the 9 of those Merlin engines light up right now, executing that re-entry burn and slowing that first stage down.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Here we
And
go.
we just
This
heard
is
the
a
call
great
out for an
shot.
entry burn shutdown. Landing burn will begin. That's the next phase of landing at T plus 7 minutes and 35 seconds.
That was an unwanted
We
frozen
currently have
object.
an unbelievable view of Cape Canaveral from the bird's eye view.
It is absolutely amazing. I've been at Cape Canaveral for these landings before where you can feel those sonic booms in your chest. It is just so exciting along the Space Coast.
Uh-oh. What is going on? That's not good.
Stage 1 transonic.
That's not good.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
They started the landing burn.
Stage 2 continues along the nominal trajectory.
That was not...
Right now, stage 2 is currently on a nominal trajectory. This is the primary mission to get that Dragon spacecraft into orbit.
This might be a news day today.
Right now, you can see that second stage engine is
Stage 2 is
performing
under
nominally with the Merlin vacuum engine
important
glowing
is
red
this.
hot.
Is it still coming in for a landing?
Right now, for Dimitri, covering up the site rep, and we can continue to secure on that one.
You may have heard the SpaceX team cheering in the background. It appears that the stage 1 of the Falcon 9 has made a water landing off the coast of Cape Canaveral. Still waiting on exact word for what happened there. Just a quick reminder, the primary mission today is to bring the Dragon to the International Space Station. Right now, that mission is going spectacularly. All telemetry from stage 2 looks nominal, and it looks like we are approaching a good orbit. Waiting for confirmation on that soon.
Now, the Dragon spacecraft is set to arrive at the International Space Station in just a few days, where our astronauts will be conducting that groundbreaking research that it is carrying up.
And right now, we did have confirmation of a good orbit from that second stage with the Dragon. Right now, the next phase of the mission is going to be Dragon separation from the top of the second stage.
Rocket on the pad.
We'll be able to see, you can actually see on your right-hand side of your screen, that's a view inside the trunk, the unpressurized cargo section of the Dragon. And I believe you can actually see some of the science experiments that are in the trunk right there.
It's an exciting capability for the Dragon trunk to be able to store unpressurized cargo and take that up to the International Space Station. It's a very unique capability.
And there it is. You can see the successful separation of that Dragon spacecraft from the top of the second stage. The trunk is open to the bottom. It's an unpressurized spacecraft, and I believe those are the 2 science experiments we're currently going to be mounted on the outside of the International Space Station. But yeah, so the next, Dragon still has a long way to go. The next phase of its mission is going to be extending the solar arrays. So you can actually see on your screen there's two kind of bumps on the side of that trunk. Those are the folded up solar arrays. And in, I believe at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, those solar arrays are going to extend and unfurl so that the Dragon can start harvesting solar power and make its way the rest of the way to the International Space Station.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, we've got some cargo inside the trunk of that spacecraft, which you could see as it was pulling away. We have two different experiments. The first one is the JEDI spacecraft, and that's JEDI with a G. It stands for the Global Ecosystem Dynamics Investigation. The JEDI spacecraft will actually measure and create 3D maps of Earth's tropical and temperate forests. These measurements will help scientists determine how much carbon is stored in the world's forests. Also inside Dragon's trunk is the Robotic Refueling Mission 3, known as RRM-3. The investigation will demonstrate technologies to store and transfer liquid methane, a type of cryogenic liquid, in space for the first time. That will help NASA develop capabilities to service and refuel spacecraft in orbit set for long-duration space flights.
And obviously, we here at SpaceX have an interest in long-term duration space flights for our eventual plans to send humans to Mars. So all of this research helps us, and we're excited to help NASA bringing that research up to the International Space Station. Like I was saying earlier, we are currently waiting for the Dragon solar array deploy coming up in about 30 seconds, 30 or 45 seconds. Those solar panels are covered by shrouds on the side, carbon fiber shrouds. And so we might be able to get some video, hopefully, of those shrouds popping off and those solar arrays extending. Shortly after the solar array deploy, we won't see this, but the next step for Dragon is to open its GNC bay door. That stands for Guidance, Navigation, and Control Door. It's sort of like Dragon opening its eyes, exposing its sensors to space so it can find and lock onto the station and make its way the rest of the way towards the ISS's orbit. And as you can see right there, that is a confirmation of Dragon's solar panels deploying from the side of that trunk. This is excellent news. It means that Dragon is now able to power itself all the way the rest of the way to the space station.
Dragon is now on its way to the space station. When Dragon arrives in just a couple of days, the spacecraft and the space station will establish a direct communications link, and then Dragon will slowly approach, pausing at several checkpoints to ensure that everything is still going as expected. Eventually, as Dragon approaches closer and closer, the European Space Agency astronaut Alexander Gerst will reach out and capture the Dragon. Next, ground commands will be sent to Mission Control, or from Mission Control in Houston, for the space station's robotic arm to reach out, rotate, and install it on the bottom of the space station's Harmony module.
Well, 13 and a half minutes since liftoff when that entire rocket was at Cape Canaveral. We had some great views. The weather cooperated today. The ground winds weren't too high. We were able to launch right out the opening of the window. You saw ascent, great stage separation. We did get some great views of the first stage and the grid fins coming back, but as you heard from some of the background noise and comments, the first stage did land in the water. Now the good news is we've got a lot of telemetry from it, so we'll be able to understand what happened and work to improve reliability as we always do here at SpaceX. Second stage went into great orbit. It was really precise. Dragon you saw separate, and now the solar rays coming out. All told, another great day for SpaceX and NASA.
Dragon's arrival, capture, and installation to the International Space Station will be streamed live on Saturday, December 8th on NASA TV and on SpaceX.com/webcast. Dragon will spend about 5 weeks attached to the space station before returning to Earth with cargo and research.
Please follow NASA and SpaceX on our social media pages for ongoing updates. I personally will be covering that early morning grappling capture, so please tune in for that on Saturday morning. And please, thank you to NASA, the range, the FAA, and you, the viewer, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate your support for these launches. Until next time.
Okay, we have a lot of questions to talk about. We're gonna reset here quick, guys. I'm gonna pull up, I've got a video from my friend Das Valdez, who is out there at the Cape. He has video of it coming down already. We're gonna digest this stuff right now. I'm actually gonna tee up. I'm gonna shoot this as if it were. I'm gonna cut this later so we have something to just go straight through. So stand by. You'll see me like tee up a video live here for a second, and I'm going to go through. We're going to regurgitate this in real time here, folks, because something happened. I don't want to speculate too much in rumor mode, but let's see what we can figure out just by replaying the video here, guys. So here we go. Let's do this live in real time. Stand by, everybody. Let's see what we can investigate and discover. So, all right. Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. SpaceX has maybe had their first failure for landing a core since Falcon Heavy. That means, of course, SpaceX tries to reuse the first stage boosters of their rockets, and this was a brand new core they're launching today for NASA. The important thing is they got their Dragon capsule up, perfectly successful mission. These booster landings, they don't really matter to anyone but SpaceX, because SpaceX is the one that gets to reuse these. So we're going to check out some footage here. We're going to replay the footage, and we're going to take a look at what went wrong or what could have gone wrong, and we're going to speculate. So let's actually, I'm going to be doing this live.
But right now we are focused on both that second stage towards Cape Canaveral and currently about to decelerate.
So it does first a re-entry burn as it goes through the atmosphere, and then the atmosphere starts taking more and more grip. And we're going to see that obviously something is wrong. The first bit of speculation could probably be that a grid fin was not working correctly. So we're seeing the re-entry burn as it lights up 3 of its 9 Merlin engines to slow down before it hits the atmosphere. And now once it slows down,
all three of the 9 of those Merlin engines light up right now, executing that re-entry burn and slowing that first stage.
You know what? I'm just going to cut the audio on this and just talk about it here. So here we go. So now those grid fins are starting to have more and more effect as the atmosphere is getting denser and denser. The altitude is getting it's going lower. This altitude in the top right hand of the screen, by the way, that is not the first stage. That's this upper stage that you're seeing on the right. So on the left, you're seeing the first stage. And this is a 45 meter tall, 150 some odd feet, 15-story tall building. And we're looking down the top of it, seeing those grid fins. And normally those steer the vehicle. So clearly, one either is wrong, or is that going in the direction of travel? And then they cut the feed. So now here's what's interesting. My friend Das Valdez was one of thousands of people that were out there watching. He has video. Everyone make sure you follow Das and K-Space Academy. He's out there at the Cape. This is also live footage of this landing. This happened 10 minutes ago. Look at this. That's the re-entry burn there. So he is getting really good at this. And we'll take a look at here and we'll see what we can speculate. It did look like that right grid fin was jammed all the way in one direction, but let's take a look at this video, see what we can figure out here live. Oh. So soon we're probably going to start seeing it oscillate. Man, Das, you're getting good at this. This is really hard to do, guys. These are really far away. These objects are moving crazy fast. Oh my gosh, look at it. This looks like me in Kerbal Space Program. Come on, Das. You can do it, Das. I don't judge him for this. This is really hard to do, guys, if you've ever tried doing this. Wow, and it got to the landing burn. Look at it, still spinning. It's almost back under control. Still spinning. Clearly one of the grid fins is stuck at like 45-degree angle. You can see which one. You can see one of them is... Oh, man. One of them is just totally stuck at that like 40-degree angle, causing it to rotate. That's interesting. I wonder if in the future they'll make some kind of way to counter this. Look at that. Still almost able to land. Oh my gosh. Oh, no way. Das Valdez, everybody. That is some incredible footage. Oh, let's hear it for Das, everyone. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. That's incredible. Everyone, go follow Das Valdez right now and make sure you tune in when he does these videos live, because that is impressive stuff. Okay, so I bet Twitter's going absolutely crazy right now with this failure. Let's keep looking. It does look at that grid fin on the right. Does appear to not be moving and the other ones do. So I wonder, this makes me total speculation time here. This makes me kind of curious. Do you think SpaceX will have to look into, obviously now that something has failed, it means they have an engineering opportunity to correct it. And that's the beautiful thing. As Elon says, if you're not failing, you're not innovating enough. And so it's important to see some failures occasionally like this, because the idea is we want these rockets to be as reliable as possible, be able to be reused 10 times without any refurbishment. And it's funny because this is the first time this rocket has flown. Just on Monday, they flew a rocket for the third time. The first time this company or anyone has flown an orbital class liquid fueled booster that propulsively lands, because of course the space shuttle was a rocket that was reused. And of course, Blue Origin has their New Shepard, which propulsively lands, but it's not an orbital rocket. This is the third time that SpaceX had reused that particular booster. And so you almost gain this confidence that this is super easy. It's not easy. There's still thousands and thousands and thousands of parts. And now that we actually have a failure of one, it will lead to some new engineering solutions. This will lead to new opportunities for them to figure out, how to make the system more robust, how to make it more reliable, really what they can do to correct this. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure out a way if one gets stuck like that again to jettison it, which sounds really like a terrible idea. Don't copy that idea, SpaceX, because the idea of just randomly popping off and adding complex things to your grid fins is probably a terrible idea. I'm sure what they'll do is they'll look at how they can make it more reliable. This is all, again, complete speculation, but do notice we can pretty well safely assume it probably was a grid fin getting stuck, because the oscillation started to occur as it hit the atmosphere, as opposed to, say, it was like a cold gas thruster or something getting stuck open or doing something. That would have started to happen in the upper atmosphere. So, that would have happened before the booster got down into the dirty depths of our air. So let's watch that replay one more time, just because, holy cow, I've never seen anything like this, guys. This is, we don't often see SpaceX fail. And this, again, it's not a massively, this is not part of the mission. The mission to the International Space Station was still successful. So, okay, now notice it's beginning to oscillate a little bit, and see that it's starting to do that, starting to roll on its z-axis. And now that one grid fin looks like it's kind of going all wonky, and it looks like it's continually going more and more wonky. Wow. And so now once one's stuck, you can't really counter it. And according to Elon on Twitter, he claims that the cutaway was a mistake. Let's see if we can get this pulled up here quick. Cutaway was a mistake. Here we go. Cutaway mistake. We will show all footage, good or bad. And I have no doubt they will end up blasting out exactly what went wrong. And we'll probably get more information. But for now, I don't want to speculate any further than that, because at this point, anything I say is just going to be potentially rumor milling. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about it from SpaceX and from Elon. Hopefully this makes the Falcon 9 a better rocket. It will make anything they're applying to Starship and Super Heavy a better rocket. Again, you can only learn from mistakes. And if you don't learn from mistakes, then that's truly a mistake. But being able to learn from it, make a better vehicle, make a better product, that is the beauty of engineering. So best of luck, SpaceX. Don't take this too personally. We all believe in you, and other rocket companies trying to work on crazy stuff. This stuff is rocket science. It's very difficult. So we're all still cheering for you, of course. Sorry that we saw the loss of a brand new booster. That's a bit of a... But the mission is successful. 3 years ago, this would have been totally normal because all rockets got thrown away. So here we are. We're crying about a rocket getting thrown away, yet that's what was literally 100% normal. Anything beyond 3 years ago to this day was just like, oh yeah, you throw them away. That's what you do. So I love that now we're like, oh no, they lost one. Like, this is still new. They still do say they're landing experiments. So again, best of luck, SpaceX, moving forward. We're excited to see what you guys come up with for a solution. I hope you bring us along for the journey. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Okay, YouTube, we're still live here. That was just so I can cut it up later. Yeah, and make another video out of it. So boom, we are going to just Boom. Grid fin hydraulics pump stalled, so Falcon 9 landed out at sea. Oh, I didn't even realize there's more to that tweet. Appears to be undamaged and is transmitting data. Recovery ship dispatched is still out there. Oh, man. Oh, that's crazy. Wow. Sorry, guys. Why don't I do another video? Why don't I tee it up and make it really quick? Although I think it does appear that DOS has pulled his feed. Potentially. Let me do this again now that we do know we have that information from Elon. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna redo it just so we aren't pure speculating. I'm gonna tee this up nice and perfect. Okay. I'm going to do another one here, guys, real quick. Sorry for ignoring you. I want to make it so it's nice and clean. Okay. We'll make this real quick. Again, if I'm going to be posting this, I don't want this to be rumor milled, so here we go. Does it have the mystery goo container? Okay. And this way we won't have DOS's footage, too, because he'll probably want intellectual property on that. But so we'll just keep that live here. But let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. So stand by, one more redo, and then we'll get back into talking. Yeah, here we go. Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. We just experienced SpaceX failure of their first stage booster for the first time. Well, I guess they experienced a failure of the booster for their Falcon Heavy earlier this year in February. But this is the first time we've really seen a failure of their Falcon 9 in a long time. This was for CRS-16 today, out at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, launching a Dragon capsule to the International Space Station. Now, before we get started, the important thing is the Dragon capsule. The primary mission, the reason this rocket exists, went off perfectly fine. It made it up to the it's on its way to the International Space Station as we speak. It's in a nominal orbit. That's the important part. But now for the fun part, because of course SpaceX does what no other rocket company can do, and that is reuse these boosters. This was the first flight of this particular booster, but just on Monday, they reflew a booster 2 times, reflying it, making it the 3rd time in total that booster had flown. So this is a brand new one. We're gonna watch it here. Look at that. This is the entry burn. This is as it hits the atmosphere, it needs to slow down. And ta-da, you can see the telemetry up on the top right hand of the screen. That's the second stage telemetry, so that's not lining up with what we're seeing on screen. We're watching the first stage. They did not bless us with the first stage telemetry. But here we go. So now the vehicle's beginning to get into thicker and thicker portions of the atmosphere. And you can see the cold gas thrusters helping to point it and maneuver it towards the landing pad. But now the atmosphere is starting to take more and more control. As the atmosphere gets thicker, these grid fins start to do more and more work, and they start to steer. But all of a sudden, we start to see it rolling out of control along the z-axis. That's the up and down axis here. And notice, one of the grid fins are at a very steep angle, and this rocket is starting to tumble out of control. Now, again, that's then the feed did cut, and we got an explanation already from SpaceX. Elon took to Twitter, and here we go. Saying the grid fin hydraulic pump stalled. So there's a closed loop hydraulic system that steers these grid fins. The pump stalled, so the Falcon 9 landed just out at sea. It appears to be undamaged and is transmitting data. That's the crazy part. So they're actually sending a recovery ship out there to go check it out. And then, of course, someone asks, will we get to see this video? And he says, yes, cutaway was a mistake. We will show all footage, good or bad. And I have no doubt they did make that compilation of how not to land an orbital class rocket. So I have no doubt that we'll hopefully learn more about this. We'll stay tuned with what Elon's saying. And don't forget, guys, this is still an experimental phase of the Falcon 9's flight. Literally 3 years ago today, no one had landed propulsively an orbital class liquid fueled booster like this. No one had ever. So 3 years ago today, a rocket crashing in the ocean was totally normal. This is not a failure. This is the primary mission, is the successful part. That's all that matters. These landings are still part of their development phase. It is sad that they lost one because we got so stinking used to them landing these things. We think it's infallible. We think that there's no failure they can have. But this is just a friendly reminder that mistakes can still happen. This is an opportunity to learn. It's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. That's a quote, I believe, from Sir Elon Musk. So don't forget, they're rapidly innovating these things, and I'm sure they'll learn. Oh, it's the pump stalled. Here's a solution, and they'll make a better vehicle out of it. So, best of luck, SpaceX, as you track down this issue, and cheers to returning with another set of Block 5 boosters, and we can't wait to see these things back to landing, which I have no doubt you'll be doing in no time. All right, well, we'll stick around for more news. Make sure you're checking out and paying attention to what Elon says on Twitter and on SpaceX. But for now, that's all we know. So that's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Okay. That's it. That's part 2. That's a new tweet. Right as I finish this is just going to be how the rest of the day is for me. Sorry, I'm really ramped up. Pump is single string. Some landing systems not redundant. Let me pull this up for you guys. Pump is single string. Some landing systems are not redundant as landing is considered ground safety critical, but not mission critical. Given this event, we will likely add a backup pump and lines. There we go. There's more tweets always going on. So I can't stay on top of this fast enough. I might cut quick so we can get a video out in a second, if you guys don't mind. I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut so I can start in the background letting Twitter process this. I'll be right back to answer all these questions. You guys left lots of generous tips. Thank you guys. So I'll be right back, guys. Literally, I'm just going to turn it off. Maybe I won't. I want to know how I can even do that on YouTube. Let's see. So, should I answer you guys' questions? Let's keep going here, and I'll go through these things. And thank you guys again. All right. So, go get him, Tiger. Okay. So, wow, we've got a long ways to go. Wish you could watch it at work. Finally, SpaceX launches it at New Zealand time. Wish you could watch it at work. What happens if you design your own space-worthy rocket without testing it, and then launch with humans on board from somewhere in a neutral ocean without consulting any government? That's a really good question. I think, that's basically what Copenhagen Suborbitals is doing. But I don't want to thank you for your tip. I want to talk about what happened and look at your guys' questions. If you're not failing, you're not innovating. That's exactly right, Steph. Daniel says they heard it blow up. I've been watching and hearing landing since the shuttle. That wasn't 2 booms. That's crazy. I wish I was out there for that. Dang, guys. Plastic Pinocchio, but ULA and Ariane space execs are cheering like crazy right now. Hopefully not, because this is spaceflight. It's rocket science. It's hard. Failures happen. Hopefully everyone in the aerospace industry can learn from this and learn what went wrong. To some degree, of course, what's not proprietary. But that's just part of it. I don't think anyone really wants anyone to fail here. I really don't think that. They might want competitiveness, to be, but I hope they're not cheering. Sam, why would they cut the video feed? Boo. Renaud, well, any data recovered is important, even when things don't go as planned. Hopefully we can learn soon what happened to stage 1. Absolutely, Renaud. Thank you for the positive attitude. That's what I like in our community. Positiveness, guys. Positiveness. Cody, watch it from your apartment. Thing was wobbling like crazy. That's nuts, Cody. I wish I could have seen this one. That's crazy. Steph, get ready. This is amazing. Yeah. Johan, thank you. Go get him, Tiger. And Chris, thank you. Elon on Twitter. Yeah, there we go. From Bjornar. Thank you for linking that. Looks like the booster detected an issue. Used the grid fins to spin stabilize and I don't think they know. Good idea, though, Tyler. Chris, fake video. The man would have you think it crashed. That's hilarious. Oh, God. So that's what we're going to see now from flat earthers, isn't it? Like, proof that they're faking it because it failed. And then they're just trying to hide that it was actually going to visit a UFO power plant in the middle of the ocean, but they faked it and made it look like it crashed. Of course, that's what the conspiracies are going to be. Guys, ugh. Go watch one. If you have any doubts about rocket launches, just go watch one. Like, if you're going to base a ridiculous claim. The burden of proof is on you, my friend. Go watch a launch. Point your camera in the direction of the launch and prove that it's not happening, and then watch it land. And again, have your video camera pointed and prove it's not landing. Burden of proof is on you, my friends. Always buy flight-proven boosters. Arvid, Elon Musk, yep, thank you again for that. Bradley, everyone should start the, no, we're not doing that today. We have a lot of speculation and work to do. Sean, the fact that the SpaceX rocket saved itself from not crashing, much less into people, is a tribute to tech there. Yeah, so they could have at any point, I believe, still terminated this rocket with the termination system if it went beyond its envelope of where it's safe to land. Luckily, it looks like it was mostly doing a spin, so its trajectory, they purposefully kind of do a slight dog-leg maneuver at the very last second using the grid fins so that if an issue like this happens, it lands in the water. That is what it's intended to do. So that worked out as planned because, the grid fins are really what have the most control authority at this stage. After it's subsonic, especially even at supersonic speeds, these grid fins have a lot of control. They have a brief period of not as much control during the transonic region, which is as it's transitioning from supersonic to subsonic. There's a whole regime there where literally you'll see little shock waves form in the grid fins. That's why we now see those serrated edges of the grid fins. That's yeah. So the grid fins are really what do most of the steering at this point. After it's gone, once it's in the atmosphere, those grid fins have a lot of attack. They have a lot of bite. They can even, if they start pushing the vehicle, we're going to use, a space shuttle booster. But so say the vehicle is just falling straight out of the sky, they can push and actually generate lift on the fuselage of the body, and that can help travel. It can dogleg quite a bit. And so those grid fins actually do steer in the last couple, probably last minute closer to the launch pad. So if they fail like they just did and start to create some kind of oscillation or spin, it's going to spill itself into the drink, so to speak. So that's what we saw happen today. Yeah. Looks like the cold gas thrusters were counting really hard until they ran out. That's probably true, Andrew. Anton, second time watching your live launch cast. Glad I did. Great job. Well, thank you. Bite size. The alien ice donut felt insulted by your joke. That is funny that we happened to see a chunk of ice come out and it was in a little thing. I'm not going to start speculating on what exactly that is. It looked like it's just probably from around a pump or something, but maybe there's some kind of leak in the system beforehand or something that caused something that we've never seen before. So maybe those two things correlate. Maybe they don't. Correlation is not causation, or what do they say? Something doesn't do the thing. We'll wait. Maybe we'll get an answer that like, hey, guess what? That hydraulic pump was leaking early. It leaked out something and it caused that little thing and the thing and the thing, and then it hit the thing and the thing. Who knows? May still be reusable according to Elon. I love that. Tim, the grid fin opened weirdly. Look at the stream; they were lagging. No, that was normal, Mike. Milhan. The grid fins, these titanium grid fins, open very slowly. They've done that the whole time. Even when they started testing titanium grid fins on Block 4 boosters, they've been doing that slow open. They even explained that they purposefully open them slowly because they're so massive. I think if they whipped them up quickly, it'd jar the whole rocket. So they do open intentionally slow. Mars says, yeah, may still be reusable. Thank you, Steph. Shout out to all the SpaceX programmers that designed the hundredths of failure backup options. The second the fin failed, other systems recompensated. That's true. And thank you, Steph. Tom, the crazy thing is how safely the booster landed. It did an amazing job landing despite that. Bradley, check your mentions. I tagged you in a tweet with a video. 12 notifications on Twitter. Could we see them reusing this rocket for the in-flight abort test? Maybe. Elon did say they want to reuse it for internal SpaceX stuff. That's hilarious. We'll see what it looks like. Does a failure like this leave you concerned about the viability of rockets like the BFR in terms of lowering launch costs due to full reusability? And thanks, Rick, by the way. And Jesse, that's a good question. But again, these failures allow them to engineer it better so that hopefully we get a lot of the kinks out of the system before people start relying on propulsive and reentry systems like this. Yes, right now it's very developmental. But going forward, yeah, I think we'll be okay. And that's why having a rapid cadence like this with a lot, 20 launches in a year, that's why this stuff is so vital. This is why it's so important to really have a high cadence. So you start to see some of these little small potential errors come out, and then you can engineer around them and make them better. So it still is obviously scary, and it kind of sucks that it happened, obviously. But it's a learning opportunity to make a better vehicle. So by the time people are ready to ride on propulsive landing rockets, yes, we'll be ready to go. So Chris, I think the fin that didn't move is the problem. That very well could be, or could potentially have been almost all of them. Tapio, thank you. Milhan, I know what you mean, but the speed of the fins were not constant. Check it out. They do that though. And thank you for that Leonov autograph. That's absolutely awesome. No, they do. They literally, some of them come out like at different times. We've seen that in past broadcasts where they slowly creep out. They kind of just get out there whenever they get out there. They're in no rush while they're in, out in the vacuum of space. So, Ferret, successful water landing tests. Should the recovery ship ever sink? Absolutely. And Christian, yes, thank you so much. Guys, I'm going to, someone just said they just tuned in. You missed it. You will have to watch this. They had their first booster failure in years besides Falcon Heavy Center Core. And we got to watch it live, and it was crazy. But the important thing is the mission went successfully. So I'm going to tune out here, guys. I'm going to get out of here so I can close up and so I can cut this together and make a separate video to post. So thank you guys for tuning in. I might live stream later again, but I have a lot of videos to get out. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Oh, I should mention, you guys, this is too funny. If you like grid fins and you like when they fail, don't forget I do sell grid fin Nada coasters, more relevant now than ever. Get them maybe in time for the holidays, maybe, although we're totally out of stock. Yeah, these are Nada coasters, grid fin elevators, or drink elevators. Go to shop.everydayastronaut.com. Get your own set. It might be a little bit of time. Please be patient with these. We've completely sold out. And now we might sell a set that's snapped in half and call them the broken ones. You're right. Shameless plug, but it's too ironic. These are one of my favorite things SpaceX has ever put on a rocket is these grid fins. And they just make the funniest things to put on a desk. So there you go. All right. I'm going to sign out now. Last plug, but yeah, shop.everydayastronaut.com. Lots of fun holiday shopping for you guys. And again, if you're tuning in, if you want to buy one of those Orion prints today, they're half off with code Orion. Check it out, shop.everydayastronaut.com. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Now enjoy the tunes, and you can listen to them anywhere you want on Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Find maximum aerodynamic pressure. Enjoy. Bye, guys.